Hey, welcome back to Garbeardia, and welcome back to Guard Talk. I can't wait to have to do a manual review on this one as well, because apparently YouTube hates everything I do and just flat up hates me for whatever reason. So, if you want to help, or help keep this train running, there's a coffee link down below. Just give whatever. I'm not asking for much. $1 would do me just fine. I'm in a bad mood because of YouTube, so let's go ahead and get into it. So, one of the questions is, when I was young, I wanted to be a philosopher, but the older I got, the more I understood that the age of philosophers is over, and everyone is there, and everyone has their own philosophy that they strive to adhere to. If you don't mind sharing, is there a single philosophy that you follow that may be beneficial to a younger generation? There are a lot of things where people will kind of rehash older things, to be honest with you. I mean, the more you look back, the more you can find a root old saying that all others are derived from. The ones I follow are the Havamal. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but basically it's just some folks call them the Viking virtue. Some call them Norse life lessons, or the Norse code or whatever. But the Havamal is a poem, more or less, from it's a long time ago. It's basically it's from the Poetic Edda, or I think it's called the Saman's Edda. But these are just basically life lessons. I think there's like 100 of them or something like that. There's some for mead songs and lessons for lovers and that kind of thing, but that's not a bad one to, focus on. I mean, it's worked for me so far, so I don't know. The real question is, will the younger generation even listen to them? Will they find value in them? That's the question of this younger generation. Will they find value in such old teachings? Are they able to push aside their self-reverence and self-importance to even adhere to such a thing? That's the real question, and it depends on whether or not they can. This one's all about frogs. I'm not gonna bother reading through it. Basically, I guess the questioner. My favorite kind of frog, I guess, is just like the common tree frog, because they're pretty fucking chill. They have a job to do and they do it well. Favorite cartoon frog? I don't really have one. Least favorite variant of frog and our toad? I hate the ones that are like the garden toads, because they shit over the sidewalk. I'm not a big fan of them. They're rude. Overall thoughts on frogs? Frogs. I'll combine these two questions. Frogs are better than toads, in my opinion, because toads are ground-bound, while frogs can go vertical, if they so wish. So, frog is the superior amphibian, I guess, in this situation. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't feel very strong on frogs or toads, I guess. The next question is from the frog person, and you know who you are, Magic 8 Ball. So you had a very long message, and I'm not really sure what you wanted me to say. More or less, you are only 17, so unfortunately you're still bound by the rules of law, unless you can get yourself what do they call it? Not expatriate. What do they call it? Where a 17-year-old becomes an adult via court order. And, it's one of those things where you're under the thumb of these people, your parents, and there's really nothing you can do about it by the law. You're not an adult yet. You need a court to tell you you're an adult. Second thing is, you said you're homeschooled in this, and it looks like you spell out your words phonetically. So it would behoove you, even now, to brush up on your grammar, because if you go out in the real world typing and spelling like this, you're going to be seen as simple. You're not simple, I can tell that much. You communicate very in depth, and it's very clear you have intelligent thoughts. You just haven't learned how to properly grammar yourself due to your homeschooling, and that's unfortunately that is due upon your parents for not teaching you properly. What you have to do is you have to go in by yourself and take the proper time to learn this knowledge, this way of speaking, this way of typing and spelling. Because unfortunately, if you go into the real world, spelling like this or typing like this, it's going to be very, very hard for you to be competitive with everybody else. So the first notch on your bedpost is learning how to type and spell correctly. You're going to have to do it. There's no way around this. You got to do it. There are books, there are programs, there are teachers that can help you do this, but you got to do it. Because, it was like, I could figure it out what you're saying, but it's rough reading. And if you go into like a job interview or something like that, spelling like this, they're gonna throw your thing in the trash probably, because they need, learned people. Second thing is just, your parents just split up, and I know that better than most. It's just don't run away. Don't run away and go die in the woods. The location where you're in will tear you apart. Those forests are deep, and if you fuck up, they will find your body for a long time. So don't run away. That'd be a horrible thing to do. It's very clear that you want to learn, because you say you have surface level knowledge. Don't put down surface level knowledge. That's still knowledge, and you call like and you say you parasite random tidbits. That's still learning. It's very clear that during your schooling years you didn't get to learn the way your brain wanted to. So you pick up on these tidbits. You quote unquote parasite this information, and it's not very hard to bury deeper into that knowledge mindset. But it seems like you have to do it yourself, which is the hardest thing for someone who is turning 17 here soon to do. Because I believe you said you are 16, but you're turning 17. So you're in a path of most resistance, where you have to personally, because I believe you said your dad can't help you because you can only see him 4 days in every 2 weeks. So you're gonna have to shoulder that weight yourself. And I hate saying that, but due to your particular and slightly unique situation, you have to shoulder your own learnings. You have to go and book learn yourself, which is difficult. But I believe you can do it. You're clearly very smart, all right? Because just how you type, because you kind of sound out these words pretty well, and I've seen worse. But basically, you're currently phonetically spelling out these words by typing out how they sound when you say them. But yeah, man. You're gonna have to learn on your own all these important things you're gonna have to know, and I'm pretty sure in your state there are systems in place to help you do that, but you gotta go seek them, because it's very clear your mother is not. And like you said, I believe, I don't know the exact situation, but it's very clear your father can't help you due to structured legal guidelines which are put in place for the betterment of all, I'm sure. But you're in a shitty place, bud. That's for sure. And unfortunately, you're gonna have to shoulder a lot of the weight by yourself. So you're gonna have to be proactive in your own life more than most, because your parents aren't. Well, I guess your parent isn't really helping you do so. So, man, it's very hard to give you like a site plan here. First thing first is getting your education in line. You're gonna have to get your own education in line and ironed out so you can still learn. How you're gonna do that, unfortunately, I have no idea. But this is the current day and age, and there are tons of systems you can use to make that happen. And your spelling, most of all, spelling and grammar, it's so important. It's how people judge you. You're gonna have to iron that thing out. And you're gonna have to just be patient. I had an abusive stepfather. I know how it is. You're gonna have to be patient and simply wait. the best thing you can do is just wait. So you just gotta. It sounds so hard to tell a 16-year-old, but you're gonna have to tough it out. You're gonna have to just keep your back straight, keep up your education, and just wait it out. When you turn 17, you can appeal to a court for emancipation. That's what it is. At 17, you can appeal to a court for emancipation, in which you're then declared an adult, and you get more legal leeway that way. Where you can go, if you're emancipated, you can go live with your father without your mother saying a word about it. So, what you got to do is just be patient, wait for the right battle to act upon, and don't be hasty. That's all I can say, man, because you're in a tough spot, and it's very hard to give you perfect advice. So just be patient, man. Next question is, so I was born with a rare form of epilepsy that you can grow out of, but as a result, I have brain damage that has always affected my linguistics and maths. On top of that, I moved schools a lot and developed a philosophy of I'll move in a few months anyway, so why make friends? Needless to say, that has left me with crippled social skills. Now I have wanted to run a TTRPG for a long time, but I can't get my head around how to write it or how to get a group together. It feels embarrassing to be like, yo, I'm 30 who wants to play D&D, just to sit and like I was made from Tism Jism. Any recommendations on how of the writing, or why I'm more awkward than the whole of an anime con from the 90s? On a separate note, I breed guppies and would love if you name my next brood. They are a whitish blue topaz body type and a python pattern with licks of orange and a neon green in the tail. As for your brood, Aquahammer sounds like a good name to me. As for the other thing, I mean, it's one of those things where you're going to get out of your own head. I mean, you've been unfortunately raised through your youth without the ability to stay in one place and make friends, which happens a lot. It happens more often than you think, really. But the biggest thing is simply getting in your head and having to force yourself or push yourself just to talk to people and remind yourself that I have time now. I can go and meet these new people. Being 30 and want to play D&D, that's nothing new, bud. I mean, there are people at the senior centers who play D&D, man. So the first thing is how to write it. You can start with a module. The easiest way for most folks to get into D&D and being a DM and writing your own campaigns is buying a module and going through the module and having it spark the ideas in your brain. If you want to go original campaign, what you can do is you can kind of base it off a module but change things here and there, or simply write it yourself. It's easier to write your own module if you have no like experience in campaigns. So it's good to use for a first timer a leaping point or a jumping point where you can kind of work your mind around what a campaign really needs and how to keep it interesting. So for Bobby's first D&D game, I would recommend you looking up some PDFs or getting an actual module book and simply running players through a module. And if they're experienced players, then kind of use the module to kind of guide your hand through your own custom campaign. And simply, it all starts with the group finds a problem. That's the biggest thing. There's a problem, the group's got to figure it out, and you can kind of go from there. If you want more in-depth help with this kind of stuff, you can send me a DM on Discord, and I'll kind of move you through it. But it's not hard. I mean, you find your local game store and put up a little flyer. I see those all the time at mine. You can do Facebook. There's always like a local D&D Facebook group you can get on and say, hey, I want to run a game. Because there's always an excess of players and not enough DMs, so it wouldn't be hard for you to find players. Just say, hey, I'm new, it's my first time, no power gamers, and kind of go from there. Or say it's a narrative campaign as well. But no, man, it's just one of those things where you're kind of affected in your youth, and unfortunately, you've kind of let it stew into your 30s, which means it's kind of like a very, very deeply grown plant. You're going to have to reach down to the roots and start pulling this old plant up so you can put in a new plant with friends and social interaction. The biggest thing is working yourself into major social interactions, and that can be anime cons, or it can be just D&D night, or going to a local game store and chatting. Baby steps. Like you and many others, the best way is to find a common ground. And then what you do is you find this common area that you have actual, mental capacities in, or things you know about, or kind of know the footnotes of, and you start working your way around people and finding those who you just simply enjoy talking to and who don't hate your presence. You got to kind of work your way up to it, and it sounds daunting, it really does, but it's really not all that hard. You just got to work your way into it. And I foresee many questions just like this in the future. I really do, because some folks just don't know how to talk to people. I was with Sopralto, a VTuber at Anime Dallas, and she said, "Why do you talk to everybody?" If you were in an elevator with me, I'm gonna ask you, "Hey, how's your day?" If you're with me in line, I'm gonna say, "Big line, eh?" I'm going to interact with you verbally because I know I have to. I have to talk with people, or I'm not going to do it in the future. I always talk with everybody, and it can be just those simple baby steps. If you're in line at a sandwich shop, and you're in line somewhere, or you're waiting on something, or there's like a wait for a table, you're getting a coffee. It's not bad just chatter. Don't be autistic like, "So, you like anime?" Don't do that. All right, just read the room, read your surroundings. And it's one of those things, like you have to learn the ins and outs of talking to people, and it sounds so stupid, but I got used to it in the Army because I was an MP. You make contact to put people at ease. You're like, it's so hard to explain without doing it, and if you guys could just watch me do it, it'd make a lot more sense. And it could be simple as simple as saying, "Man, Mondays, eh?" It's one of those kind of things. It's hard to explain. I'll probably go into depth in that later, but more or less, for this question, local game store, Facebook groups, Discord groups in your area. If need be, this questioner with the guppies, start online. Go on a Discord, start your games there. Baby steps. Work your way into it. Having a D&D game in person is far more intense than on Discord, because if you get stressed out, you just disconnect. If you get stressed out in real life, you can't really just disconnect. You got to run away, and it does not look good, bro. Does not look good. If you need further questioning, contact me on Discord, as with everybody else. I know who this person is. This one's from my flatmate who I'm getting to read the book. How do you write your style of dialogue? I really like your style of narrative. Also, thank you for the Viking facts from last time. Can you please wish me happy birthday? Of course I can. Happy birthday, flatmate. I don't want to say names, but I know who this is. I'm sure most people in Discord know who it is too. How do you write your style of dialogue? I've read a lot of books, and I think it's silly. And people will write, cause I know it's not really a grammar thing. It's a tradition thing. A lot of writing stuff is, and it's one of those things where most folks write dialogue, comma, and then an action, and then another comma or some bullshit, and then more dialogue. Me, I write my dialogue how it would come out before the action. So I kind of view people in the book how they react. So say they'll say these lines. And then I'll say period because they're done. That's the dialogue they're saying. Period. Then an action. To me, it's just more simply structured. It's less confusing. I mean, I don't know. Like usually, if someone's gonna be doing an action while they're talking, I lead the dialogue with the action. Like Emily Braun sat down and picked up a mug, holding it close to her lips, and then she, period in the dialogue, what she says, and then period. To me, it seems more logical than all that comma stuff. Like, I get it, I do, but I just don't like it. I don't think it's as neat and tidy, if you ask me. I don't know. Hey, Guard, what in your opinion is the best firearm for pistols, rifles, and shotguns? Love your content. Hope to see more. Best first firearm is one you can afford. All right. Don't get suckered into buying like brand new fucking SIG P226s or a fucking Scar 16 or 17 or that kind of bullshit. It's something you can afford. And it's something where if you break that bitch, it won't be as easy. It will be easier. It will be easier to replace or fix. So it's hard to say the best because half of that shit is about style. Other half is about fit to hand. For shotguns, an 870 is not bad. A simple pump action shotgun that's not some kind of hunting shotgun or skeet shotgun. A simple home defense shotgun. All shotguns, in the end, are either pump action or semi-automatic. Usually, there are bolt action shotguns, but anyway, for the most part, they're mostly pump action and semi-auto. And all shotguns are a tube that shoots smaller tubes. That's all a shotgun is. There's rarely a rifling. There's usually maybe a rifle choke, but even then, shotguns are simplistic in almost extreme. They're a tube that fires a shell that puts out a smaller tube filled with stuff or a slug. It all depends. So a shotgun should be something you can afford. And that functions, Mossberg, Beretta, those solid brands. There are Turkish brands which make the same thing on the same machinery, but it's all about quality control, really. So you got to look out for that kind of stuff. Rifles, oh my God, rifles. Rifles, there's so many of them, brother. There are so many of them. Find out what you want. Do you want direct impingement or direct gas push or direct recoil, whatever the fuck I want to call it, gas tube, or piston, or direct blowback, I guess there are those, or roller delayed. Figure out what kind of rifle you want and go from there. Everyone should have at least one AR in their possession or an AK because they are the two most basic rifles on the market one can find easily. It's usually an AK variant or an AR-15 variant because they're everywhere. And they're easy to fix. There's tons of aftermarket. Learn on it, break it, get used to it, then realize what you want and move from there. Pistols, don't go for a fucking high point. Go for like, oh Lord, a Glock, a Beretta, a SIG P320 is a good place to start. They're usually pretty cheap too. Don't go SCCY, they're dog shit. Kel-Tecs are fun but weird. I mean, don't get a fucking Kimber. Don't don't get suckered into these purchases by the gun counter dude either, because they want to sell guns, not sell you the gun you need. So, I mean, just get like an MMP, or if you like it, get one of the Smith & Wessons. I mean, it's hard to say. Go in there where you are, find out what you can afford, touch it, feel it, grip it, see how it feels in your hand, and go from there. Even more so, you're allowed to go rent these things at ranges. Just go rent the damn gun you want to buy and see if it actually works for you. Because once you buy these things, there's no returns on a firearm. That fucker's yours. So go to a gun range, rent some guns, try them out, see what feels good, look at prices, and go from there. But most importantly, I guess, is just go fucking try guns. Go to a gun range, try them out, rent them, see how they feel. So that's probably the most important part, is go try gun. Next question is, hello, I know maybe I'm nitpicking, but the locals and the Veil Riders seem too much friendly to a bunch of feature lists for their standards, I believe. Humanoid motherfuckers with strange weapons and even stranger custom/behaviors coming to their world and starting off a second war with the Fae and their servants. What's the general population views on humans? How do different races of the Veil see us, both morally and physically? Are we ugly to them? Are we like guardian angels coming from the sky to bring salvation for a brutal and horny? Okay, so that's actually going to be addressed in the next book, section 222. I'm going to go into the actual local relations with humans. But more or less, in the first book, I tell you guys that humans have been coming through for years now. You know, there were the Lensknechts. There were random folks coming through. I mean, humans have been spotted in the Veil world ever since the end of the Fae War. Because when the Fae War ended, the Fae Queen made the veil, and it's, you know, basically it's a doorway that's always open. So humans have been wandering in by accident to the veil world for generations now. So, but remember, our world is spinning faster in time than theirs, so they probably saw cavemen first, if anything, or Neanderthals walking through. So we're kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to say how they would view us, because basically me saying it's this. I think we'd be like the Mothman, or like Ghost, or aliens, or Sasquatch, these kind of weird things that come through. But as we progress in our time ahead of theirs, it's more of like these curious people that come through with these new ideas or these new discoveries. Because humans, for the longest time, have been feeding these kind of things to, like, the veil. It's kind of hard to explain in depth without writing a huge lore book, which I could do if people want me to write a huge lore book about the humans through the veil. But they don't see us in a negative way per se, because we've never been outward, except for the earlier times of humans, we've never been like outwardly hostile towards them. Because the land snakes got drunk with dwarves and went fighting trolls nude. You know, it's just because that's kind of how humans are. We kind of like, oh, well, we're here now, and then they kind of like adapt. You know, but we're more like an oddity, or like, oh, it's that thing I heard about. It's those human people, you know. Because we've never been outwardly hostile. I'm sure we have at times, but for the most part, we're not outwardly hostile. I wouldn't say we're ugly to them at all. We're definitely different, but we're not ugly. And morally, it depends on the human. You know, that's how we are. I would say the current Veil Riders are kind of like guardian angels, where the Veil folks see these humans who are sent forth by their human lieges or kings or what have you, and when seeing that something odd was on, literally turned their back on their own people to defend them. So they're definitely a curious folk, but a guardian angel does come to mind, where these human people seeing something wrong and then learning the story of the Fey Wars and all things going on, decided, fuck it, that ain't right, and kind of read the writing on the walls and turned their backs on their own people to defend these Veil folk and fight for them and train them and all that kind of shit. So it's definitely a complicated view to remark on, for sure. But you'll see a lot more of how they feel about humans in Section 222, because the book is focused primarily on Veil folk. Section 222 is a platoon of Veil Rider auxiliaries, and every character, for the most part, 98% is going to be a Veil native. So look forward to that, I suppose. That should explain a lot of the just a lot of your question, really. Let's see. Hey, it's me again from the previous video, the guy who doesn't have any hope for the future of my own generation. I'm in a predicament as of right now, as I'm trying to pursue a job that's very shaky politically. I'll say it in here, but please no say in vid, for it might fuck with a few homies that watch your channel. Okay. I'm not sure if I should tell them or should I just keep it a secret. Hope you have a nice week and get some delicious chocolate donuts for breakfast. Your friend Anon. So that job, there's nothing wrong with it. That job's been demonized heavily for the fact that, oh my goodness. For the most part, it's got bad sides to it, because remember, I was one of these, more or less. But it's a job that needs to be done, because when the chips are down and folks are desperate, they always call out for these people, you know. And it is a thankless job. You're gonna do things that are gonna scar you for life, but you're gonna give people hope. There's gonna be times you're gonna have your ultimate lows and your highest peaks with how you interact with your local citizenry. And it's a job that needs to be done. This job's been around since the dawn of time, I would think. You know, there's always been an arbiter of some sort. You know, it's just, I don't know, man. Don't worry about politicality of it. And thing is, if your friends demonize you for this job, they're not your friends. That is the biggest truth you can adhere to. If you are demonized for doing something that you believe is the right thing to do, and your friends turn their back on you, you turn your back on them because they were never your friends in the first place. Real friends will understand why you're doing things and remain your friends. If your friends get butthurt over you taking a job and then try and demonize you for it, they were never your friends to begin with. And they should fucking grow up. That is what a child does. How dare you do this? I'm not your friend anymore. It's childish. And to be frank, they're not worth your fucking friendship anyway. So I gotta say about that. Where did your love for centaurs begin? That's a hard one to explain. When I was growing up in the 90s, in my youth in the 90s, anime was pretty big in the 80s. You had your early and late 80s animes, and it came into its own in the 90s. For the while, I was a basic kid who simply liked like Ryoko from Tenchi Muyo and Cat Girls and all that other bullshit. But as I grew older, I got more and more into the whole Monster Girl thing. I suppose not as heavily. It wasn't as heavy until I joined the army. I'll tell you that much. But more or less, it's a romance thing. If this makes any sense, it's a romance thing. The same kind of problem that guys who like mermaids run into, because this woman you love is part animal, and it's all below the belly button. It's one of those things where it truly is romance, where if you have a female centaur, all right, and you're a male, and you tell the centaur that you love her and that you want to be with her forever, you have to look past my fucking throat. You have to look past the the obvious horse part, the quote-unquote elephant in the room. And to me, it's romantic, where you love a person so much you can look past their quote-unquote faults, and that you would do things for that person you would not do for others. To me, it is the highest form of romance, where two beings that shouldn't be together are together, and they do it willfully and don't let anything get in their way. So say like either centaur waifu lover or a mermaid waifu lover, or anything that's kind of part animal in a way. The fact that two people can look past the faults in their personal appearances and love the person underneath and who they really are is the peak of romance. And for me, it's more romantic. That, and unlike a mermaid or whatever else, your centaur waifu can, pull a cart or like help you pull things. They're strong. I mean, they're part fucking horse. And I don't know. It's like romantic utility, or utility with romance, really. And they'd be the best like shit hit the fan waifu to have, because if need be, you two can get up and go pretty fucking quick without much to do. But really, it is a romance thing, most of all, where you two can look past your differences and the monster on the outside and see the burning passion and heart on the inside. It sounds super lovey-dovey, I know, but that's really what it is. It's all about the romance of it. So, yeah, there you go. Congratulations, you figured it out. And the last question. Hey, man, I know I'm turning this in like we all turn in our English assignments last minute. Anyway, I was having a nice chat with a cute redhead on a dating app. I tell her that I'd rather tell my dumb story about my brother's name in person and invite her to get some Greek food this weekend. She stopped replying. What did I do wrong? I kind of get a similar thing when talking to chicks IRL. I'm tired of being alone. I don't even want sex at this point, just someone who loves me that ain't family. Thanks, and can't wait for more Emily Bronze and the menagerie of waifu she brings. I tell her that I'd rather tell my dumb story about my brother's name in person and invite her to get some Greek food this week. Well, good job for shooting your shot, at least. God damn, you did what most men are afraid to do, is shoot your shot. A lot of men nowadays wait for the female to make what most males nowadays wait for the female to make the first move. At least you took the initiative. It's one of those things where it all depends on the person you're talking to, really. I don't know what you look like. I don't think, anyway. And I mean, you're dealing with people. You gotta cast a wide net and hope you get a fish you like, or that likes you back. And that's for both males and females. You gotta cast a wide net and try and pull in the one fish that fits. And maybe she's just nervous, because there's a lot of nerves. And when you say she stopped replying, like, at all, like, it's just you, like, Greek food and then silence. You could ask her, did I scare you away? Did I see something wrong? I don't know. It depends on how pushy you're being. It's just like 1 day, 2 days, 1 hour. There is a gestation period for these kind of things. And usually I would talk for a few days before even going into meeting in real life. So you may have done it too early. That's always a thing. You could have gone too early. As we're tired of being alone, I understand that. Folks don't like being alone. We are social animals. We need contact. We need hugs. We need that kind of stuff. We're very social creatures, us humans. And I understand you being tired of being alone. I get that completely. But it's one of those things where males and female humans are hunting a quarry. And that quarry is another human that is the right fit. Because, yeah, you see people getting in relationships and getting married, but how long do those last? How long, I mean, do these relationships last before they blow up in their faces? Because they're just trying to find the right human. And it is extremely difficult to do that. It's always a gamble. It's always a chance. Because you're dating these people in the hope that this time maybe you found the right one. This one won't hurt you. This one won't try and get you back. You know, it's one of those things. And the best thing you can do is just keep going. And it seems like just, you know, it's this vicious cycle. But all you can do is just keep persevering through and trying to find the one human that fits, because it does happen. And you just have to keep looking. I mean, I know you're lonely. Everyone gets lonely. But you just gotta learn to get your timing right and keep looking for the right person. It is probably the most difficult thing to do in life right now, is trying to find the right person, the golden shot. And it is difficult, and unfortunately there's very little I can help you with, because it all depends on the person you get in contact with. You could find a fast burning candle or a very, very slow burn. And it's harder to do over phone because you can't read the person over phone, because you're only getting text. So the only thing you can do is to accurately learn how to read people and kind of read the room in a way. And unfortunately, that's all I can really help you with, is just learning how to read the situation and the time spent in conversation. And that's really about it. Because sometimes girls or guys will just say, no, I had fun talking to you, but I don't want to date you. But instead of being up and forward about it, they'll just try and ghost you, because it's easier to ghost somebody than it is to tell them the truth and hurt their feelings. What they don't understand is when you ghost somebody, you leave them in the void of unknowing. And probably the most difficult thing about life is just people are people, and they don't want to outwardly hurt your feelings, and nowadays they'll simply just ghost you. They won't say anything. They'll leave you in deafening silence until you eventually get the hint or whatever. But the best thing you can do is just keep looking. You'll find one eventually. All you gotta do is keep looking and don't get discouraged, because you're undertaking the hardest thing in human life. Just keep at it, man. Just keep at it. All right, those are all the questions that came in for this Wednesday. All the others that came in during the morning will be done next Wednesday. If you like this channel and other stuff like this, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel of Garbeardia. And if you want to help support the channel, there's a coffee link down below. Like I said, I know I said it twice. It's desperate, I know, but YouTube is fucking strangling me right now. I make more money on Twitch than I do on YouTube, which is fucking depressing. But it is what it is. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks for keeping the channel running, and I'll see you guys hopefully. I gotta go to a funeral tomorrow for a family member, so I probably won't have an Emily Bronze video out this week, but hopefully next week. So I'll see you guys next week, and we'll probably tonight for stream on Wednesday, and Friday stream and Sunday stream. So I'll see you guys when I see you. Stay safe out there.